Hey y'all, welcome back to Homemade Simple. If we've not met before, I'm Lori. It's time for me to give you all of the nitty gritty details about my January budget. So I'm a little bit shocked about some of those numbers. I'm a little bit proud of myself for some of the other numbers. So let's get into all of the exciting details of my grocery budget for January 2024. Go over a little bit about my January budget. I had told y'all at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the month, that I wanted to be more open and transparent about my grocery budget and the money that I'm spending on a monthly basis, because I realized last year I really need that. I need accountability. I need someone to know what I'm doing so that I will avoid those easy to make impulse purchases that are really just going to mess up my budget over time a lot. And I feel like that continued to sort of snowball last year. So I wanted to share with y'all sort of what happened in January. I've been trying to be really mindful about keeping up with my expenses. I've been trying to be mindful about using cash. And I've also been trying to be mindful about not buying things that we didn't need. More on that in a second. But for the month of January, I have spent $435 on groceries. I feel like that's a big win. I usually spend a lot more than that, and so I feel like I have done really good in the grocery spending department. And this goes back to some impulse purchases. I did realize that there was a really big correlation between me going to the grocery store by myself or just with Lane versus going to the grocery store with the older people in my family who will have more of a request list and more of a desire to add things to the grocery cart. So I don't like to say no to those kinds of things, but I have been trying to make it sort of a more normal rule that we're just not going to buy a lot of extra stuff. And so that has helped curb some of that extra spending. But I'm also not going to tell Chris, who works hard for the money that he brings home, that we're not going to buy the things that he wants to eat. So I'm not willing to do that. I don't think that's kind, and I don't really want to do it to the kids either. So I'm just trying to make modifications to the things that I buy, and then really try, if I'm going to go on a big grocery trip, to make sure that I'm going with a list and I'm going by myself. That I think is really going to help. I do think that me using cash made a big difference this month. I can really see where if you have just a set amount of cash in your wallet, that you are much less likely to say, oh yeah, let's buy that, or oh, this looks good, let's throw that in the buggy. I can really see the benefit of not overspending by having a cash system, and I can really see the monetary value of that even in just this first month. So cash is definitely the way to go for me. Maybe that's not for you. I heard some people be like, you can get 5% cash back or a 1.5% cash back if you use a credit card at a grocery store. Well, that might be true, but I'm going to spend a lot more than 5% if I'm using a card. I know that about myself. I know myself enough to know that I don't have the kind of self-control that I need to have, and so spending cash is a good way for me to just have a hard stop on the spending. Another interesting thing that I did this month was I divided out my groceries and my household goods. So anything that I bought at the grocery store but it was not a food item, or it wasn't like a typical meal item, I put that in a separate category. So even when I bought protein powder, or especially things like toilet paper and other kinds of items like that, toothpaste, those kinds of purchases were kept out separate. And for the household items, I spent $57. So I think that's good. $57 in a month for household goods. I think that's fair. That's much less than I expected. So again, having that not in the grocery budget itself, I think helps, because it's sort of inflating the grocery amount, and it's not things that we're eating. So it's not really fair to put that into the food category when it didn't have anything to do with food. So it was necessities and it was important, but it wasn't in the right category when I had it in the grocery category. So I think that was beneficial for me to separate that out and to see what I actually spent on food items versus what I was spending on other household items, like washing powders and dish soap and hand soap and other things like that. So that was another interesting thing, that I seemed to really spend a lot less than I expected. The last category that I've been keeping up with is animal food. And you probably don't even need a category for this, but if you have animals like we do, we have a lot of animals to feed. I have gotten rid of a lot of our big animals, so we're not feeding the horse anymore. I'm only feeding one cow now. That just started, so all of this is really recent, but I still do have the 2 pigs that we feed, and the 4 goats, and the 3 dogs, the chickens. So we do have a substantial amount of animals here that we have to feed. But I've been really sort of shocked by the amount of money that we spent to feed the animals. So I spent a total of $278 on animal food. That's over half of what I spent on the human food. And so I'm really going to have to think through all of that. I am looking to get rid of the goats, and the pigs are going to go eventually too. So they are being fed, but they're eventually going to be put into a different category, which is going to save money. The cow is producing milk, which I am really thankful for, and I'm really trying to be mindful about the things that I'm using with that milk, so that I don't just pour it out. But $278 is a lot. Like, it's a lot. So I had to buy 2 big bales of hay just for the 1 cow and the goats. If I had a hay saver, that would have saved a lot of the hay, and so I think that's definitely something I need to work into the budget, so that I can make the most of the hay that I do buy, because half of it is being wasted. So there's a big portion of it that I can make back, but those hay savers are really expensive, and so I've balked at buying them. But after I'm seeing this number, that sort of indicates that I need to do something. And I mean, an animal is just going to have to eat. A large animal is going to have to eat a large amount, and a large animal in a cold snap is really going to have to eat a lot. So I've been trying to let them forage as much as possible and limit the amount of food that I'm giving them. I have been trying to make sure that we feed them the scraps and never throw any food in the garbage. It all goes out to the animals. I've been really trying to work on that. But still, that is the only number I'm disappointed in. And I just have to do more digging and more thinking about what I can do to limit that expense without having to cause them any health problems. Because obviously you want healthy animals and you want nourished animals. I don't want to starve anybody, but I also don't want to starve our budget either. So that's just something that we're going to have to think through everybody with a homestead has to do this number game and figure out where you're able to make some adjustments and do better. Overall, I feel like this first month has been a success as far as money and as far as the spending goes. I feel like I've done better, and I think that you have played a big part in that, because I literally was thinking about y'all all month long, thinking about, well, I'm gonna have to admit to the fact that we spent this money at Walmart. And one of those times was when I was not by myself, and I felt like the anxiety start to rise, and I started feeling a little bit frustrated and stressed out. So I just had to sort of calm myself. This is one day, this is one trip to the store over however many trips I'm going to make throughout the year. So this is not anything to get frustrated or anxious about, and I just have to keep my focus on doing the best that I can and making improvements as I go along. And I really feel like I have made big improvements just in this little amount of time. Now, the problem comes with me in the longevity of my ability to stick to my plan. So I really need y'all to give me a boost and some I've got you, and I'm going to be watching, and I'm going to be making sure that you're sticking to it, because I know myself enough to know that by the time March and April roll around, I'm probably going to get lazy about this if I am not sticking to making sure that I tell y'all at the end of the month how things are going. So maybe y'all can sort of check in on me every now and again and make sure that I'm still on the wagon and using cash and being mindful. We did eat out some this month, maybe 5 times. I don't really remember exactly how many times. It was all like intentional or meaningful. It was all good money, well spent money, that we were able to go out as a family and enjoy one another's company. And I don't feel bad about that. I'm never going to get to a place where we never go out to eat unless we are, like in below poverty or whatever, and we just can't make it work. So eating out is something that our family likes to do. So I'm not going to completely cut that out. And I think once a week or once every 5 days is a fair amount for us to go out to eat. Sometimes the girls and I would go out like on a thrift store trip or something, and I would be like, we could use our Chick-fil-A points and eat if you want to. And so they were happy to do that, and so they were able to pay for some of theirs, and I was able to pay for some of mine in Lane's and get some of it for free. So we were able to work out a couple of times when I didn't have a huge amount to spend, and they were willing to chip in instead of eating at home before we left. So there's always a couple of options that we can use in order to make things more doable for our budget, and we were able to work out the eating out thing so that it still was within the allotted amount for food without, going crazy. And maybe one day we will have a no eat out month. Maybe one month we'll do that. That seems to work for us. It seems to sort of give us a reset. But we really like to eat out, so I don't want to do too much of that and sort of lose my people through the process. Sometimes moms get to be annoying penny pinchers, and I don't want to be that way. We're still working things out. We're still working out the bugs. I do feel good about where we are, and I feel good about $435 on groceries. I feel really good about that because that would have been doubled last month, probably. Now, I didn't do as much as I wanted to about eating from my pantry and eating from my freezer. So I still have a lot of stuff to eat through, to go through for our meals in February. So maybe I will really be more mindful about that. I did find out that there was a lot of clearanced out food in January. I don't remember that being a thing around here, but maybe my head has just been in the sand and I've not been paying attention. But I found a lot of things that are sort of being discounted, and a lot of those things were at Target, and I was able to go into the grocery aisle at Target and get meat for half price, bread items, like specialty bread items that I don't know how to make, for half price. And so I was able to get a lot of discounted things that way, and that has really helped. But I didn't do so great about using up my pantry stuff, so I'm going to work on that in February. Hopefully we will get some stuff cleared out so that we can replenish very soon. Well, that is the update on our grocery budget. I really appreciate you being there for me and helping me. I would love to hear the breakdown of your January budget. So how much did you spend on food? How many people are you feeding? Y'all probably already know this, but right now we're feeding 5 people. Me and Chris, the 2 teenage girls, and then Lane, who is 3, and he doesn't eat much. So we're feeding 5. So make sure you tell me how many people you're feeding and how much you are spending on groceries, and break down the household items too. I would be very interested in that. And if you have animals, I want to know what you're doing about that situation, because that is the one thing that I'm not stressed yet. I'm not to that point, but I'm a little bit upset about that number. So let me know what you're doing to sort of keep that at a low level. I know a lot of y'all have animals that you take care of, so maybe you can help me there. But thanks for watching today. Thank you for sticking in with me and always being such a good supporter of the channel and the things that we're doing here. I hope that y'all have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.